always check those out too if you're interested in those other ones. But yeah, we'll record this today. So welcome everybody to the Starting a Men's Shed. I will spell out myself and Punch here. So Punch and I have some fellows here with us today who are going to talk about how to build a men's shed or how to start a men's shed. I am representing Healthy Aging Alberta and the Core Alberta platform. So this group is, we have a men's shed connection group on the Core Alberta platform that you can share resources in, or you can connect with each other and have that space to ask questions to Punch and myself if you would like. So we invite you to join that space. And Punch is the chairman for Men's Sheds Association of Alberta here. So before we get going, and before I pass over the reins here to Punch, I'm just going to do a land acknowledgement. So in the spirit of our journey to promote reconciliation, we'd like to honor the truth of the shared history and acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We're grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. And I am tuning in from Mohkinstsis, also known as Calgary, which is on the Treaty 7 Nation and traditional home of the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Kainai, Siksika, and Piikani folks, as well as the Yahe Nakota, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney Nations, and the Tsuut'ina. And I'm also tuning in from regions 5 and 6, Métis regions 5 and 6, but I recognize that everybody in this room is also tuning in from all across Alberta and maybe even a little further. So we want to acknowledge all the nations that we're tuning in from today and those traditional lands of those people. Okay, so we will have some conversations here, so just some housekeeping. Maybe keep yourself muted while folks are chatting, and then you're welcome to unmute yourself when we're doing some question or conversation. You can always toss things in the chat there too if you feel more comfortable with the chat. You have the reaction buttons that you could react or raise your hand if you have a question, or send a little heart if you're really loving something. And I'll share the recording with you after. And I'll pass it over to Punch.
Good morning. It's pretty exciting to have over 30 people online. So that's encouraging for us to know that the momentum is still building. We have 42 sheds across Alberta now, and we have really moved forward with the shed development in Alberta through alliances with FCSS, with Healthy Aging, and in Edmonton with the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues. Kudos to FCSS. About 27% of the sheds in Alberta have had their hand in helping getting those started. So it's pretty exciting. We have now got about 150 sheds across Canada, and the momentum is, we've reached a tipping point right across the country where people have realized what the value of the sheds is to their community, and they're taking part in events like this and getting some tips in terms of how do we get these things started. We will send out the presentation. It'll be posted on the core platform. If we've got everybody's emails, we will send you the notes and anything that we've got stashed away on tips for starting men's sheds. If you want to get into some discussions, you can connect with me, and I will send you some backup materials. Today, we've got 3 guys that are very experienced in shed development. We have Richard Nazatkin from Grand Prairie, and his community is about 45,000 people. We have Riley Tukey from the county of Strathcona, and his shed is actually located in Sherwood Park. The county has 105,000 people, and Sherwood Park has about 75,000 people. And then Brian Sawyer is his home shed is Richie, and Brian is the operations manager at Men's Shed Canada. So he's got some perspectives right across the country. But his community that he started the shed in is only 4,200 people. So you've got quite a range of activities, of the kinds of communities. And so I think that will be reflected in people's comments today. So I'm going to introduce Richard to tell you his story about how he got his shed started. Richard.
Thank you, Punch. Just one small correction. We're about 75,000 people here in Grand Prairie, and then our trading area is about 110,000 with the surrounding communities. I'm in Treaty 8 territory, and I'm in District 13 for the Métis Nation. And just a little bit about that land acknowledgement. I grew up in a small town of Fairview, which is an hour and 10 minutes north of Grand Prairie. And I grew up, one of the neighborhoods was called Beaver Ridge, and I never even knew why it was called Beaver Ridge until I realized there was an Indian reserve on the north side of town, and it was just slowly encroached on until there was a town meeting in the local theater, and they just somehow were able to convince the government to dissolve it. And I'm very sensitive to the plight of our original Canadians, the original people that were here on this land. And I think that carries through within our shed as well. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a retired teacher, and I'm on my 4th career. I have a small business that installs railing on decks for houses. And I'm fairly embedded within the construction community in Grand Prairie. I raised my family in Grand Prairie, and I was first diagnosed with that chronic depressive disorder in 2006. And I was off work for 2 years, and I couldn't believe how isolating it was to be on a long-term disability. And my employer, which was a Catholic school district, had seen me at a gym and had written a letter to my union saying, if he can be at a gym, how come he's not at work? And so I ended up with a second, like I had to fight just to stay on my long-term disability, and I had nowhere to go because it was still a small community, and I felt like I was being watched. And it actually, in some ways, I was. And that was when I first realized just how isolating not having a job can be. And as I got better, I started to facilitate a group here in Grand Prairie called the Men's Support Group. And through that experience, I was trying to find activities that the guys could do. This was in 2008. And that's when I first heard about men's sheds in Australia. And I was toying around with having some kind of activities with this men's support group, and quickly realized the men's support group served a purpose that activities would actually not allow the purpose of the men's support group to do what it needed to do. And so my first kind of seed that I want to plant today is that men's sheds provide support, but they're not support groups. So there's this fine balance between things, and I'm going to come back to that a few times. This was in 2008, and then in about 2018 or 17, I started investigating running a woodworking shop with a business model. And every time I tried to come up with an idea, like I was a shop teacher, so I was going to set up a shop that was rentable, just like a gym model. But what I found with my research was that people weren't willing to pay fees like they do for gyms. So the gyms create customers that are paying and not showing up. If all of their customers showed up, they wouldn't be able to support them all. And nobody was willing to do that for a shed. So they were like for a shop. In 2018, I had a visit with Doug Mackey in Manitoba, and he said, Richard, you're overthinking this. Men's Sheds is very, very simple. You just need to provide a place and a coffee pot, and it will happen. And he mailed me 2 Men's Shed Manitoba aprons, and he said, just start meeting. And so I had this meeting February of 2019 in a coffee shop, and I had 28 guys show up, I think it was. And I was like, okay, we're going to meet next month. And next month, COVID happened. And so we never did meet, and it sat on hold again. So this is something that took a long time for me. It was just percolating for a long time. That's what I really want to emphasize here. 2021, Alberta opened up for the 3rd time during COVID, and I rented a space with my business, and I provided the men's shed within the business. So I self-sponsored it, and I just used Facebook, and I met on Tuesday nights because that men's support group met on Mondays, and there was a second men's support group on Wednesdays. So I picked Tuesdays so that there would be this trifecta of places for guys to go when they had nowhere to be. And so that was how I started the shed, and it was as COVID was opening up, and I just met regularly. It was every Tuesday. It was an emphasis for me to make sure that the doors were open. For 2 years, I self-supported it within my business, and never really, like, it started to grow, and then it plateaued, and it never really changed. But I didn't realize how much there was percolating within the community. When I felt like nothing was changing, people knew that we were doing this, that this shed was starting. And one of the local companies donated a heart defibrillator, and they brought it into the shed, but they also bought pizza and pop, and they shared on their Facebook page that they were doing this. And that was the first big jump for me. So we went from about 5 or 6 guys on a busy night to like that same 19 or 20 guys on that night that the defibrillator arrived. And to be honest, we never really turned back from there. I was nurturing a relationship with the local suicide prevention resource center. So they call themselves a backbone organization. So they're looking after our financing. And the owner of the building, I have a personal relationship with, and this comes back to that personal relationship building, that nurturing is really, really important. I convinced the owner of the building to provide one of the bays in our industrial park. So Grand Prix Men's Shed has a 1,300 square foot wood shop. And then we have the front foyer. It's like a typical strip mall in an industrial park in any community in the province. The front foyer is about 750 square feet, and then there's an upstairs mezzanine above the entrance, another 750 square feet. And so they provided it in a business world. It's at cost, like it's for free. It's just paying the costs of the building, but it costs us $1,250 a month plus utilities to be in the space that we're in. So it's about $25,000 a year to be in our space. The next turning point was the coffee machine. So I've got a sponsor from a local coffee company that provides one of those old-fashioned analog coffee brewing machines that you push the button and it brings out coffee, and it brews it right in front of you, or you push hot chocolate, or you push cappuccino. So you have the 3 choices, and they provide it for free, and they refill it for free. And that was the next tipping point for us, was having that free coffee. I was surprised at how many times guys came in and said, I'm just here for the coffee. So my observation was meeting on a regular basis, no matter what, and having free coffee was the two core things for the organization. We're in our second year in our space. We currently are open from Monday to Saturday, so 6 days a week from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we're open Tuesday nights still from 7 till 9. And that's my night. I make sure that we're open on Tuesday nights. We have pairs of guys for each of the days. And so between those two guys, somebody is there to make sure that the doors are open. And we're going to be having our first fundraiser on Father's Day weekend. We're going to have a brunch, just like a typical supper silent auction evening, except it's a Father's Day brunch on the Saturday. We have about 29 to 34 active members. So that would be somebody that's here at least 2 times a month. And then we have another 30 guys that are, I call them comets. They disappear for a long time and then they show up again and just sort of reconnect and see how we're doing. So we're quite active, and we've been doing some community involvement and things like that. And that's, I guess, the summary. And then I guess to come back to one more thing is another tipping point for us on that curve was purpose, having some kind of purpose. And I think the first thing that we did was the comfort birds. That I was inspired by Cold Lake. So we carve a little wooden figurine for people with dementia in care centers. And they're like a worry stone. The person holds the comfort bird and they can rub it with their thumb. If they're in a quite well into a dementia, sometimes they actually pet the bird. And I just find that having something that the guys can do takes the pressure off of the meeting space. So having a purpose can be building puzzles, it can be rebuilding bikes, but there's got to be a purpose to them to come. The coffee is the draw, but the purpose is what keeps them coming. That's my summary. I'll pass it back to Punch.
Okay, that's great. And there's a lot of things that are inside of that shed that are unique, and we'll come back to those a little later to get Richard to highlight the 3 or 4 various components that he has there. So let's move down the highway all the way down to Sherwood Park and ask Riley to let us in on his secrets.
Did you want us to wait for questions to the
Yeah,
end?
we have one question from Faye here.
Okay, I don't, let's hold off on the questions until the end. Sorry, Faye. Okay, Riley.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Riley, and I'm with the Men's Shed Club of Strathcona County. I moved to Strathcona County about 4 years ago, and I didn't know anybody. It's been my experience the best way to get to know people is to get involved with something. I happened to be on the phone with my brother from New Zealand, and he told me about his shed in New Zealand. And he said, you should start a shed there. It's a lot of fun. So I looked into it. And of course, that was right at the beginning of COVID. So I had to sit on it until COVID ended. And at that point, I went and joined another shed in Edmonton just to see what it was all about. So I joined the Kenilworth shed. I was there for a few meetings. And all the while telling them that, I want to start a shed where I live. And one of the guys there stepped up and said he was moving to Sherwood Park and he'd love to help me. So between the two of us, we moved out to Sherwood Park. And I approached the county and suggested to them what I wanted to do. And the counselor that I talked to in the county said it was a great idea. They called his dad the Mouch because he's half man and half coach. So he was all in. He thought this was a grand idea. And so he gave us $5,000. And right away, the seniors home here in the county called up Punch and asked if they could have a presentation on a men's shed. So we got together with them, and right away they saw the value of it to them and the people that lived in their place, and to the community at large, which they try really hard to be a good part of. So they offered us a space in their parkade, just a room off the parkade. So we took our $5,000 and we filled it full of woodworking tools and started a little shop there. Well, we had myself and Stan, the guy that's helping me, and a couple of guys that lived in the facility. We started out just like that. There was only 5 or 6 guys all together. But word got out, and one of the seniors groups here in town that has a space in County Hall, they contacted us and said, you know, we really like what you're doing and we're spreading the word for you, but we got a lot of guys that really don't want to do woodworking. They're too old. And so they asked us if we would do another men's shed in City Hall. So I said, sure, why not? Well, you know, there's that free coffee thing again. These guys that are looking for something to do but don't want to take a chance on using tools, or maybe they can't breathe the dust, or maybe they're too shaky. We got one guy that falls down all the time, but he loves woodworking, so we put up with him. So we started the shed at County Hall as well, and all of a sudden it took off. Word got out. I made little 3x3 posters that we handed out at volunteer fairs and county functions. And sometimes Stan and I would just go to McDonald's and hand them out at McDonald's to all the old guys there. And it was really all about just marketing us. I went to the doctor and hang a poster on the doctor's wall. We'd go to the grocery store, hang a poster in the grocery store. We started getting more and more people. And then it just started going word of mouth, and people bringing friends and friends bringing friends. And we're up now to 70 members, 71 actually. We got a new guy yesterday. We get probably 15 to 20 guys out for our woodworking shed, and routinely 30 to 40 guys out for our other shed. Now we're only open during the daytime. On Tuesday mornings we're open, and the reason we're only open, I know that Richard, your shed was open. I'm really impressed it's open 6 days a week. Wow. We will get there, so congratulations to you. We're still working on that, but we're only open Tuesday mornings for cards and coffee, play dice, play cards, just stand around and chat. A lot of guys like to do that, and this is where a lot of the stuff comes in, the healing. Because guys chat as we're playing cards, as we're having coffee, whatever. Guys start to chat. Well, I got a bad knee. I got a bad back. I got dementia. I got MS. And it all comes out. And it's just conversation. Nobody's going, hey, I want to talk about it. It just happens. And that's where we focus. We focus on senior men. And so we're only open during the daytime, not the evenings. So because we're not open in the evenings, we don't attract anybody but seniors. On the Wednesday afternoons, we're open from 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the shop. And in the shop, we work on projects for other community groups. We build stuff for the museum. We build stuff for the library. We build stuff for the church next door. We try and do things for groups in the community. It does 2 things. It gives the guys a focus. It gives them a purpose. It gives them something they can go home and talk about, that we did this and the community knows. So by doing it for community groups instead of just for ourselves, we get exposure, and that exposure reflects back on my guys. I've always said that, you know, my spouse is really, she's proud of me for doing what I do with the men's shed. And that's what I want for my guys. I want all of their wives to be proud of them for what they're doing in the men's shed. Because a man that isn't proud of himself isn't a happy guy. So this gives them something to do. I got 70 guys that were sitting at home on the couch, and now they're coming in and doing this. We're working with the county. If you want to know how to start a shed, just get a few guys together and start doing something. As you said, Richard, we need purpose. You need free coffee is one thing. and it's all good, and trust me, they'll show up for it. But once they're there, you need to have a purpose. So on Tuesdays, we play cards, but we have a lot of speakers come in to talk about men's health and interesting things. We had a guy last week for electric bikes, but on Wednesdays is when we build things like buddy benches for the schoolyards, and the guys get, we get our picture in the paper. Your wives start to tell people about what you're doing. And that's when the guys, they get their pride back. Okay. They become, when you retire, you become invisible. This gives them visibility again. That's what happens. Now, as far as who can start a shed, anybody with a passion, anybody that is looking for something to do. If you're sitting around, just know that somebody else is sitting around too. You're not alone by any stretch of the imagination. There is a huge number of guys sitting around. I get 70 that'll tell you the same thing. So all you have to do is reach out to Punch, have him give you some framework as how to start a shed. They'll supply you with all the information you need. They'll supply you with a grant to get started. The FCS people, you have such a beautiful reach of all the people that you deal with. You've got a group of seniors that you know, and trust me, if you just tell all these seniors you want to start a men's shed and then find somebody that can lead it and that'll have a passion to lead it. I mean, I'm pretty lucky. I've got an advertising background. I know how to do some advertising, and I've got a negotiating background, so I'm always meeting with councillors, mayors, all the county departments, just to keep everybody in tune. Sometimes I just go to have coffee with them just so they know what we're doing. We've been so successful that now the county wants to build us a shed. They're going to build a new senior center, and they're going to put a 20 by 30 shed on the end of it for us that we can fill full of tools and be open like Richard is more days a week. Because if we do that, we can be open 6 days a week, as you are. I think that you don't have to get too hooked up on what are we going to build, just have fun. Okay, these guys are just looking for friendship. That's all it is. The number one problem is loneliness, boredom, isolation. That's what they're trying to beat. When I get guys coming into the shed, they're there one day and they're introducing, the next day they're playing games with everybody, and the third day they're in forever. They love it. I think the best way to start a shed is just to start talking about it. Talk about it with some of your friends and say, what do you think about this? What if we were to grab a little spot somewhere and fill it full of tools, even if it's just your garage? It can be anything. Talk to the county, talk to the community halls, talk to the churches or the old folks home. We're in an old folks home, and they've given us a small space in the basement. We just wheel all our stuff on the benches out into the heated parkade, and we work in the parkade. So we have like a little 10 by 15 shop. It's not big, but it just houses the tools that we pull out and do. So you don't need a lot. This doesn't have to be a professional operation. You can do this in a real small space. The whole idea is you have room for guys to sit with you and have coffee and talk. And if you get a chance to build on something and work shoulder to shoulder, that's when the health by stealth comes about. That's when the guys get to know each other and they trust each other and they talk about things that are pretty amazing. We hear stories. I can tell you for sure that we have saved lives. Like, these guys need each other, because when you retire, when your kids quit hockey, you lose half your friends, and when you retire, you lose another half. And the friends you do have are too busy to play with you. So these guys are all sitting here, and their number one thing is they're looking for new friends. So if you can provide a space anywhere, even if it's just, it's going to the point now where we meet Thursday mornings, we all meet for coffee because the guys wanted more. And that's just at a restaurant. It's still men's shit, but it's just at a restaurant. we meet Monday nights, twice a week or twice a month to play poker because there's a bunch of guys that want to do that. So anything can constitute a men's shed. So whether we got a half a dozen guys playing poker, 30 guys drinking coffee, 20 guys building birdhouses or buddy benches, or just, you know, a dozen or 15 guys having coffee in the mornings, it's all a men's shed. So the biggest thing is don't pressure yourself. Just start talking. Just start talking, get a bunch of guys together, and then you can visit other men's sheds. That was the big one for me, visiting other men's sheds and visiting Men's Shed Edmonton. They gave me lots of information on how we can grow and how we can do it, and what you can and can't do. Because you're going to want to become a nonprofit society at some point so that you can apply for more grants if you decide to do something more. Men's Shed Alberta is a really good resource for that. So reach out to Punch, he'll let you know. This is a chance for somebody, some guy that you know, to be passionate again about something. He can start a men's shed or just join a men's shed. It really is, the rewards are so great. It's just great. I don't know what else I can tell you. Like I said, who can start a men's shed? Anybody can. You don't need to be a special person. You just need to be willing and have a little passion. You want some spark back in your life? Do this. It's so rewarding. It's just crazy. It's the best thing I've ever done.
Thanks, Riley. There's lots of secrets in how Riley works with his groups. One of the things that everybody that's starting a shed will be asking is about insurance. And you can find out about insurance by connecting with us at the Alberta Men's Shed Association. We have an umbrella policy so that it's extremely inexpensive to get liability insurance. So everybody is covered. The comment about helping with startup money, the startup money really is coming from Brian and Men's Shed Canada. Brian's the channel into that, and when he's finished his presentation, he may talk a little bit about some of those things that are available through Men's Shed Canada. Brian has been on the scene for quite a few years. I can't remember exactly how I twisted his arm to get involved, but I asked him at one point when he was with our group in Edmonton. I said, you know, there's starting this thing with Men's Shed Canada. You know, it'd be really neat for you to get involved in that so you could bring stuff back to Alberta. Well, lo and behold, it's taken over his life, I think, working with Men's Shed Canada. So, Brian, you want to give us a little overview of your Ritchie experience, and then you can branch out to tell a little bit about Men's Shed Canada.
Yeah, thanks, Pudge. Happy to. And I remember you twisting my arm and thinking I was, what have I got myself into? And it turned out I'm really enthusiastic about men's sheds. I retired about 5 years ago and I did nothing, which was my dream. Do nothing for a year. Got a little boring. And so I was looking around for a men's group. I just enjoy the company of men. And I asked around and eventually found the guy in Edmonton who said, have you heard about men's sheds? And I joined one. And so, and I haven't looked back. But as we did, I realized I was traveling across town to go to one, and I wanted one in my community. And it turned out that through the Edmonton community of the Community League Foundation, they've been really good advocates for us. And I'm going to use the word advocate a lot here because I noticed there's about half of you on the call are not men, you're women. And women are, I often say it, our biggest advocates. And so, and you're not going to start a shed. You're going to find somebody to start a shed, but you will be really important. And that's what happened here in my next door community in Ritchie, was the community league president invited me to come on over and tell them about men's sheds. She'd heard about it, and I did. And I gave a presentation to their community league association. They said, well, do what you'd like. We'll give you a little time in one of our rooms. And so I said, okay, give me the room, give me the space, and I'll put on the pot of coffee and I'll start a shed. And I was by myself for a day, for 1 week or two. But I also attended some volunteer volunteer fair and some of their association meetings. And I just started showing up and talking about men's sheds. And eventually another man joined me. So we were at 2. And so we put on the coffee and we said, we'll be here every Saturday putting on the coffee. Join us, guys. And another thing we did, Riley talked about presentations. We did presentations for the community just because we were interested, because I'm interested. So we would bring in speakers, and it didn't have to be about men's health, but often it was. But we invited the whole community to come to those presentations, men and women. And there a couple of things happened. I talked about sheds. They saw that I was a normal guy. So, well, this isn't too weird. I wasn't in it for my mental health. I was in it because I enjoyed it. And so some of the guys started to say, well, I'll come. And also some of the women said to their husbands, you should go. And that's how things started. And we got quite a few guys pretty quickly. So we just celebrated our 2nd birthday. And one of the things that we've done now is we've attracted a whole range of men, but we're in the community. We like to go out and be seen in the community. We're fixing up the hockey, the hockey benches, hockey rink benches, or going and working in the community garden. We're the older guys who've got the time and the resources to do this, and we talk about men's sheds, and we get a whole lot of appreciation back from our community league. So much so that when they're building their new community league building, which is costing millions, they're building us a room. So they love having us around. We can fix stuff. We can, if somebody needs it, if they need a tap repaired, in the old days, they would call the plumber at $100 to start. We just fix it. And not only that, if there's a young guy in the group, we show him how to fix it. So there's some mentoring, some multi-generational work that goes on. So that's really important, is just bringing in all kinds of men. And we don't say that we just do woodworking. I think that Richard and Riley both emphasized there's a whole lot of activities men want to do. So we don't tamp it down and say we're just going to do woodworking. We really invite men to come up with ideas and let's do it. Let's get behind it. And once I've started the shed, and I think Riley did this and didn't mention, I've handed over the leadership of the group to the younger men. So we got, I'm retired. A lot of us are retired, but we've got guys in their 30s who are leading our group, our shed. So we really encourage younger men to come in, and they bring in younger guys. And also, as other men have said, the coffee pot is the most important thing. So the first thing we do on a Saturday morning is get around and talk and catch up on the news. Well, how's life going? The second thing we do is we might get around to doing work, or we might not make it, because we're just enjoying that companionship so much. It's like a second family sometimes to guys who've been isolated. So that's my experience. It's just my local group of guys that I've learned to relate to. And then, as Punch mentioned, I'm affiliated with Men's Sheds Canada, and I talk to a whole lot of men who are applying for grants, and they're wondering how to start a shed. And usually, it's find an ally, or men and women. So this is where I want to get into it. Lots of organizations, I'm sure you're aware, social service organizations are mostly, the leaders are mostly women, but they run programs and the guys aren't showing up. So this really fits in with your mandate to serve the community. Let's get the guys to a men's shed. And so what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So the women are usually asking, well, how do I start a shed? How do I start a shed? And I say, find two guys who are interested and passionate about getting together and get them to start it and support them. And give them a space, give them some time. So with our grants, I'm getting into the grants, the startup grants. We invite guys to put the word out, get the word out. If it has to go in a local newspaper, or you have to build signs, or you have to whatever, however you get the word out. But put the word out and connect with other associations, other community groups who will also help you to put the word out. And that's how the word spreads. I can walk around as much as I want, but if I inspire 2 other people to walk around and put the word out, then the word spreads. So finding allies is really important in your community. And oh yeah, and some of the one of the secrets is for the guys who want to start, find a partner, do it together, so you don't burn out. And eventually, maybe hand over leadership, but find a partner when you're first starting a shed, so you can lean on each other, because diversity is really what leads towards sustainability. And have many activities in your group. Just be open to whatever the guys want to do as you sort of grow into a shed. We talk about, if you're looking at the mental health side of things or the community side of things, yes, it's good for men's mental health. It's good for my mental health to be with men. That's not how I promote it. I say that we have a lot of fun together. Together, we do great stuff in the community. It just feels good, like Riley said. It just feels good to be out there and having a purpose and being seen, and then mentoring younger men. There's so many great things happen when us guys get together. And yes, and get engaged with it. So, and then there's, I just want to throw in, there's the social prescribing aspect. Doctors or mental health professionals, will send men to the shed. And it's not so that we can fix them. It's not so that we can deal with their mental health. It's just the togetherness has such an impact that getting them through the door the first time is the biggest challenge. And so that's why I have had to be persistent. I had to just put the coffee pot and stay there and just keep inviting men. And eventually they will come. And those are the kind of, that's the big secret of, is have a couple of guys find a couple of guys who are passionate about this, and make sure they got the coffee and, the donuts or the cookies or whatever. Food brings men in just like coffee does. And let it grow. And of course, we in Men's Sheds Canada, then we offer grants, we offer support. We got all kinds of resources on our website to help anybody start a shed or maintain a shed, or we answer questions for shedders or about shedders, or we refer people. So if you go to the Men's Sheds Canada website, tons of resources there. And I won't try to duplicate that by talking too long now. I think I'll wrap it up there, Punch, and we can be open for questions.
Okay, so just before we do open for questions, I think all 3 of the guys that have talked about their sheds, there are 3 lines that you should remember. It's someplace to go, something to do, and someone to talk to. Those 3 things. One of the things I think that we've done really well in Alberta is that we have increased the number of voices of people who talk shed. And I put that usually in quotation marks, talk shed. And of all the sheds that have been started across the world, about 40% the women are actively involved in the startup. The very first shed in the world started in Australia, and it was started by a woman. So women have a pivotal role to play in this, whether it's kicking you out of the house to get out to a shed or actively facilitating a shed to get started. So let's see if there are some questions. Faye had a question quite a while ago. Maybe we can go back to Faye and ask her what her question was.
It was actually Ron, our president here for the Whitecourt Men's Shed. We're just starting off. So Ron, go ahead.
Yes, it's my questions around health and safety and liability. Now, how do you manage that, and what are the health and safety requirements for a man shed? Do you have a full safety program or a sign-in sheet, a liability, sign-in sheet, or just how is that managed?
Yeah, I'll let each of the guys respond to that. Richard, why don't you go first?
Sorry about that. Yes, we hijacked most of our safety stuff off of the Alberta, Australian Men's Sheds Canada, because that was the only resource we had at the time. So there's the paperwork component of it, and then there's a liability, like the waiver form. Insurance is a big one, and then long term, we're hoping to have a YouTube channel, and then we'll be having QR codes on the machines. So there'll be specific things about our specific machine that also involves just the housekeeping duties around it. So like, what do we do with the chips from the planer, or like that sort of thing? How large a pieces of paper, like one of the biggest safety issues is the accumulation of wood, and then having to rent a dumpster or to try and getting rid of garbage. There's an awful lot of like, if you focus on it too much, then you start having a program mentality. And I think you have to try to make sure that you don't realize that shed is not, we're not a workshop community. That's like, there's so little workshop, like actual woodworking stuff that's happening. And there's lots of sheds that aren't woodworking too. So don't get too sidetracked by that. I think it can evolve as the shed evolves.
Yeah, I think
Say that I'm much of my career I spent in health and safety. In fact, I was identified as a health and safety professional in this area, and that went on to the province, and as all provinces do, they identify a health and safety professional for that year. They selected me, and it went to Canada. All the provinces submitted their, and I was identified as the health and safety professional across Canada. So I have a very good understanding and have done many audits, and I've seen many accidents, and I'm just really cautious to make sure that there's a proper, like a sign-off sheet or something that you sign when you go in, so that you identify that you know the rules and people are wearing gloves where they should, or goggles where they should. How do you manage that part of manship?
okay, Faye, you better send me your colleague's email address and his name, because we're going to have him roped in here pretty quick to help us with the whole health and safety process.
Yeah,
When you think about the development of sheds, and you look across the world, it's like a evolutionary curve. And at the beginning, things like safety, the guys are not that keen on it. They're more keen on the friendships. They may not even have equipment and tools. But as the shed begins to evolve, they start to realize that they need to have that health and safety thing, and we need to have stuff developed for Alberta and for each of the sheds to be able to easily access. So someone like yourself would be invaluable to us in terms of helping us put together materials. I know Men's Shed Canada has this on their work list somewhere as well. And we would appreciate your assistance in helping us with that. Because we know we've had accidents. nothing too serious yet, but we know we've had some bumps and bruises. And so it's absolutely essential that we have that kind of a program. And we know that in Ireland and in the UK, they actually have courses that shed guys can go and participate in terms of how to develop the materials, the manuals and things for their sheds. So it's on the to-do list, and now your name is going to be beside that to-do list.
Well, his
So
name is Ron Allen, and I will definitely forward it on to you, Punch.
thank you very much, Faye. Thank you.
For
And
sure.
I have done some research into it, and from what I understand, just from what I looked into, is that there's a reduced program. It's not like you might need if you were in another business where you're paid employees. Nonprofit has, I believe there is a reduced program, at least in Alberta. So I will continue to look into it. And,
Okay, I appreciate that. Margaret has her hand up. Margaret,
Yep,
you got a
sorry,
question?
I was trying to unmute. My video's not working either. I'm really attractive, just so you know. Just kidding. I'm working with Red Deer Rural Mental Health, and we're just starting out. And I knew about men sheds because there's one in Innisfil, and I talk to the guys all the time. And I want to kind of bring it up at a meeting as an example, what they could do working with us. But my curiosity is, what would it cost to start up? Sort of a ballpark. And is there membership dues? Do any of you guys have membership dues? And is there dues to pay to like Manshed, Alberta or whatever?
Okay, start with Minchin, Alberta. We do not have membership fees at this point. Once a shed is declared to be open, then it's a member of the Alberta Men's Shed Association and is eligible for insurance. Uh, Cost to start up, I think it varies from the size of the coffee pot you have, and to the space. And initially, I think your costs are very low, and it's going through the process of having your guys decide what it is that they want to do when they grow up. When they want to have their shed, it doesn't have to be a woodworking shed. And Riley is a great proponent of this. It doesn't have to be an expensive woodworking shed. You know, there's a story I've told many times that an 82-year-old fellow in downtown Edmonton started a shed, and he came to me and said, "Punch, we're too old for power tools. We can't handle them anymore. It's not safe." And he said, "Come around in a couple weeks and I'll show you what we're doing." I went to where he had his shed set up in his seniors facility, and what did I see? Uh-oh, there's a big table here, and it's got a puzzle on it. And the fellow that was sitting there, he looked at me, and he had seen my eyes roll. And he looked at me and he shook his finger at me and he said, "Young man, you do not know the kinds of conversations we have around this table." And they're all shoulder to shoulder conversations. So it can be something as simple as puzzles, and it can be I guess, as complicated as having $100,000 worth of tools in your shed. But it depends on the shed. And Richard has a number of components in his shed. He has a woodworking component. He has a scale modeling group in his shed, and he also has a book group that's all under one umbrella. And so you can have these things evolve underneath one umbrella. So the cost of it is easy to control, and the guys will manage that process. but I don't think you need to say that you need to start with, we got to have $25,000 or we can't start. Hey,
No, I was
somebody,
thinking more on the lines of like having enough to get a place to go.
in the minds of what?
To be on the where they could, like, you need to have a place, right? Like to pay for the place, that kind of stuff. And then if it was a woodworking shop, do you can you like would there be options to get like wood donated from builders, house builders that have some or whatever, stuff like that?
Punch, I'll just interject here because I think you need to think about community first.
No, I
And
am.
yeah.
They're gonna ask
So
me questions, so then I have to be able to answer them.
I know, but I just like it. So when you think about a space, Valley View has a space that was provided by a school district. Once they start meeting, like just meeting in the coffee room of a local, like the transportation department's coffee room if in a small town, or and then go from there. So from a startup point of view, definitely don't look at rent as an expense right off the bat.
No, I was just curious. So I live in Trochu and we have 1,000 people, like just under 1,000 people. So there's not a lot of options there. But there could be. So I'm just trying to, like, I love this idea, but I'm not a man. So I mean my husband's going to be in it if they have one. But I think it's a great idea, but I'm not saying that we're going to have one. I'm going to suggest when I reach out about the rural mental health, this is an option. Like maybe this is something to explain to them about it. So that's where I was trying to get that information for. So thank you very much.
The Innisfail Men's Shed for a number of years, they've used each of the guys rotates with their own garage, but they have had their permanent meeting space in the Legion since they started. And
We don't even have a Legion.
the type of facility that they are getting was donated by the museum. Heritage sites. I
Yeah.
think I saw Jim Martin on the call here, and Jim's done stuff with heritage facilities in and around his community. Jim, you got a comment?
We've been, West Country Men's Sheds has been in operation for 5 years now. And we actually use the workshops at the Spruce View School after the kids leave at 3:30, and we keep it till 7 at night. Works well for us. We got a full range of all the carpentry tools and metalworking tools. And we have about 15, 20 members. We meet once a week. And we're doing lots of work for surrounding museums. We got 3 museums around us. We also work on community projects. Recently, we've run a lot of courses. We've had courses on bark carving and knife making and Danish chip carving and welding and wood turning and pen making. And our latest project, we purchased a forge, and we're doing blacksmithing, metalwork, which is kind of exciting. We've applied for 2 years, applied for New Horizons for Seniors grants, and we were successful, which supplies us enough funds to do the courses. And we also do a lot of tours, probably 6 a year, sometimes overnight tours of museums and industries and the like. So having access to that school was paramount in the forming our community. And we are in a town of 50 people. 50 homes, and there's a couple of small communities around us. So our most of our clientele are retired farmers and oil workers that live in the rural areas. So you don't need a big population in order to form a shed.
Brittany Wells is on the line, I think. And Brittany, am I correct in saying that just in the last little while, the shed in Sylvan Lake is getting access to the old tourist information center?
Hi, Punch. Yeah, totally. So we started our men's shed at a local brewery in town that would offer the space. And then the shed is still currently securing their workspace in our old tourism booth, which is located right beside our library, and it has access to a big area to work outside as well and draw in the public. So we're waiting for the keys. I don't know when they're coming, but it's very exciting. Our shed, we held our open house in November of 2024. So we're very quickly getting things rolling, which is just a great feeling.
Great, congratulations. So
Thank you.
Trochu, I'm trying to think, the name's not coming to me too quickly, but there are sheds that are starting. I think it's up in the Grand Prairie area where someone's using their farm space for a shed. Am I correct, Richard?
There's a gentleman in Beaver Lodge who's got a small feedlot, I think, on the outside of town. He's a sawyer by trade, like runs a sawmill, and he has a shop. So it's a farmer's shop, but he's right on the edge of town, and that's where he's hoping to start. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that the access to facilities, the size of your community, you shouldn't see it as a barrier. People will find a solution if they want to have a shed. So I hope that you're not going to feel that you can't start a shed because you happen to live in Trochu. It could be the capital of men's sheds in the province.
Oh, I'm not worried about that. We'll have it in my garage if we have to.
Good for you. Any other questions? Stephanie's got her hand up.
Yeah, I got a few questions, Punch. For some of these smaller communities, do you have, once things are going, do you have some folks maybe help getting other folks to the location? Such as if you have some farmers that are around and about but can't transport themselves, do you set up volunteers to get them to the place?
Richard's shaking his head and he's got his thumb up, and the answer is yes, there are guys helping guys get to the shed.
Nice.
Punch, I'd like to speak to that. We have probably half a dozen guys a week that somebody picks them up on their way and brings them to the shed. Or there are some guys who can get a ride to the shed, but they need a ride home. That happens all the time. And most of these guys are retired. They don't have a lot else to do anyway. So a ride home is just a new way to make friends again. It works out really good. They all help each other. It's not even an issue at all. And as far as dues go, we charge $1 a meeting, $1 a week actually. And that's just for our little slush fund. In case we need screws or nails or something, if we need big money, we go to the county for a grant, or we go to somebody else and try and get a grant, or the club has actually agreed that if we need some money, we could assess everybody $5. Not a big deal. But just for pocket change, to buy donuts and whatnot, we charge $1 a week. So it's not a big thing. Most guys give me $20 and say, well, tell me when it runs out.
Hey,
On that note, I was reading on Men's Shed Canada that there is a developmental grant available as well. We have our startup grant, which was amazing. It's helping us. We're renting a booth at the trade fair this weekend. It's helped us with some costs like that. FCSS, I work for FCSS, and we're helping support our Whitecourt Men's Shed. And we've got 10 great guys already interested, which is amazing. Just wondering how we go about, I just did some preliminary reading, but what is the eligibility for that men's shed development grant?
I can answer that, Faye. It's if it's at least 6 guys been around for six months as a shed, that's the first thing. The second is that you have that you're registered as a society, or you intend to register. Your shed intends to register as an independent society. And the third is that you have some plan for sustainability. If you do, that we can provide you with a grant of up to $10,000, as long as we're not getting you in trouble. That's the thing. We want to give you a leg up to become
Right.
sustainable. And
Yeah.
so, yes, that's available, and you can contact me through the Men's Sheds Canada website.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Stephanie, did you have another question?
Oh, it was more a comment. It was, and I assume, I haven't organized a men's shed, but I do a lot of community work with other groups and women. Once you start getting folks together, people step up to help pull weight and, have the answers. So I hear a lot of questions about people not sure what the answers are, but I don't think you need to necessarily know that all as an organizer. Once you start meeting for coffee, as Riley was saying, then you see what people are up to and what they want, and maybe who has skills in what area, like Faye's friend there has, and you can kind of balance things.
I've got another comment. If anybody wants to start a shed, visiting a shed that's already in existence can help. It'll give you some comfort and some guidance. And anybody that wants to reach out to me at menshedstrathcona.com, by all means, reach out to me and you can visit us, or we could maybe visit you. Give us a call. We're always happy to help. I think any of the guys that have started a shed are always here to help. So reach out to somebody that's already got a shed and let them work with you. Let them give you some advice.
Okay, the last comment that I would like to make is to thank our alliance partner in Healthy Aging Alberta, because they have done so much for Alberta Men's Sheds in creating opportunities for us on the core platform, to giving us access to the regional gatherings that they've had around the province. We were at 11 last year, and I think that we'll be at the 7 that they're having this year. And they've also given us space in their at their summit in October, where no, you can't be a keynote speaker. No, you're not going to have do a workshop. But oh, by the way, we're going to give you an entire room so that you can create a men's shed at the conference, and you're going to be able to have your guys there doing shed stuff. So we're very excited about our partnership with Healthy Aging Alberta, and they've been wonderful with their regional staff, talking shed everywhere they go. And so we really, really appreciate that. So Stephanie, pass that on to your troops. And and many thanks to you for organizing this particular webinar for us. So
Thank
I
you
think
so much. Yeah, it
that
was lovely to have you all, and thank you everyone for your stories. Thank you, Brian and Riley and Richard. It's really great to hear the different variety of sheds going on, and I think that gives folks lots of ideas of what the possibilities are and what they can do in the province. So thank you very much for your time. Please do our survey. I popped a link in the chat there. You can pop it open, and that'll let Punch and myself know what topics, what you liked from this session, but also maybe what you would like to see for future events. Punch has a few ideas up his sleeve here for the next few months until December. So we have some upcoming content, but let us know if you have any other questions or thoughts. Punch is getting one sorted for June, and I can let you chat a little bit more there, Punch, on that, so you can keep your eyes peeled for when that comes out. But we do have another one. Punch is speaking on June 3rd with more of an intergenerational focus about men's sheds at our intergenerational group. So I tossed the link for that one.
We're participating in that, and I think Richard and 2 or 3 of the guys are going to contribute to that in terms of some of the activities that the sheds are doing with the younger people, whether it's younger men or whether it's even with, I know in Riley's shed, they do stuff with young school children. So we'll be active in that particular thing as well.
Yeah, so I tossed the link for that if you want to join us. So that's on June 3rd, but then Punch is planning an additional one for June 4th. Punch, do you want to chat a bit more about what you had in mind there?
June is men's mental health month. So we're in the process of lining up some speakers to talk about some of the issues men are facing from a mental health perspective, and the role that sheds play in supporting the men. So that's coming up in June.
Yeah, so stay tuned for, you'll see some links from us coming out about that. Yeah, anyway, thank you, everyone. I guess I'll pass it back to you, Punch, for any
Okay, I
last
think
words you want to say.
that's it. I think, thank you everybody for participating. All those people that are on here that have sheds going, good luck. The ones that are just starting out, Crystal down there in Strathmore, if you need any help, you know where to go. You can come to us anytime. I think that's it, Stephanie. We'll send out materials after sign off.